Okay, again, so I provided two photos to use. I have the front view and I have the side view. We've already downloaded those and have those available. In Maya, this is what we're going to end up doing. We're going to take those two photos and use them as planes so that as we assemble, we can see where the front is. So when we line up our shapes, they line up with the front of the character, and then we can turn to the side view and change the depth of those shapes so that they begin to line up with the character. And that's going to take just a minute to set up. This is going to require us to go through and move vertexes or vertices, move faces, move edges. We're going to do some, what's the word I'm looking for? Extruding. Okay, so we have a new graphic, or a new scene. And I'm just going to right away save this. So once I have a new scene open, I'm going to say new scene as, save this someplace on the network so that it'll be there when you come back. And I'm just going to call this Mario 3D. You'll find that for all of the NES game characters, it's not that hard to find a front and a side view. If you wanted to do, you know, Link from Zelda, you'll find him. If you wanted to do Metroid from Sega, you'll find him as well. So, save scene as, done. Continue. Student version will require you to continue. Okay, now in order to bring in those photos, we're going to make some free image planes. So we're going to go up to the Create menu and say Free Image Plane. And it puts it in there, but what we need to do is go over here to the right where it says Image Name and browse to your either your Downloads folder or your Network folder, wherever you have saved those images, the front and side view. It doesn't matter which one you start with, just pick one. I'll say open, and now it's in there. And I'm going to repeat the exact same process for the other side. So right now I have the side view, so I need to bring in the front view. So I'll say create image plane, image name over here on the right in the attribute editor, and now I'm going to choose the other photo, which in my case is the front view, and now I have both. Okay. Now, by default, it's going to put them right on top of one another. So what I want to do right away is I want to select one of these, and I'm going to go over to the Move box here and rotate to the side view, and just move this one off of the other one so that I can very easily see both of them. Alright? And tell me at any point if I need to stop here. I'm going to make it to where this is going to be, it doesn't really matter, but this is going to be, I guess, the side here. So I'm going to take one of these, it doesn't matter which one, and rotate it 90 degrees. So I'm going to select this particular one here, and then go over and grab the rotate tool. And I can begin to use the yellow line here to rotate it around. And if I scroll down a little bit here in my list, I should have, let's see if I can find it really quickly. You can actually double click on the rotate tool and bring up 90 degrees as well to try to make sure that it rotates as perfectly as possible. If it's not perfect, you can always go on top of the graphic and use the grid to help you line things up. So there are straight lines in the grid, so I can just take and use that grid below to ensure that they are rotated properly. So I'm just going to use that little grid line below. And I will use also the other grid line to make sure that this guy here is also rotated properly. Again, you're going to have to use the left Alt button, or the Alt button and the left mouse button to rotate around within the world. And then you may need to use just the middle mouse button, the scroll button, and the Alt key to move around so you can get right on top of things. Okay, so that takes some getting used to, those keys, rotating and moving around in the world. Now my next task is to bring both of these above the plane, and that's just because I don't like to see the actual world plane or terrain level in the way. So I'm just going to take my move tool or selection tool up here, the white arrow, and just draw, you know, a box with the mouse to where I at least have parts of both of the images. That'll help select them both a lot faster. And go grab your move tool now and move both of these images so that they are above that terrain level plane. So now you're not looking through that grid. And then if we use the center scroll button on our mouse and the Alt key, we can now move the world down. If you use just the scroll button to move up and down, you're actually moving the images up and down, and that's not what we're doing. Once they're above that terrain plane, I want to use the left Alt mouse button and the scroll button to be able to move up and down vertically in the world. Alright, my next step then is I'm going to select just one of the planes. It doesn't matter which one. And I'm going to go over to Alpha Gain over here on the right, and use that little slider to decrease down the transparency. Alpha has to do with how much transparency there is in anything, in this case in our plane. And what that's going to do is it's going to make the planes a little bit more dim so that when you're creating your shapes, it's easy to identify your shapes as they're in front of the plane shapes. Because if we kept the alpha level at 1 or 100%, it'd be hard to see where your shape stops and the plane shape ends or begins, because they'd be the same color. So we just lower down the transparency so you can see through them, and when we bring our new colors in, our new shapes in, and give them colors, they'll stand out against the guide. Okay, next what we need to do is we need to move a plane back so that really the edge of Mario's hat on one side touches the plane. So if you see, if I zoom in here, I'm trying to get this so that really the end of Mario's physical body lines up with the beginning of the other plane. I don't want to join white to white because what that's going to do is make it so my shapes now have to be further away from both of the image planes. That's a little bit more challenging, and you have to kind of worry about your depth a little bit. So I'm just lining both of these up so that they are perfect with each other. So I'll select the other one and do the same thing. I'll try to bring it over to where Mario's hand lines up perfectly with the other plane. So literally they are touching each other right at the very edge. Okay. Yeah, the zoom mode. What we want to do now is we want to zoom in and use the left mouse button and the Alt key to position this just right, and we want to look and see do the body parts in both photos line up. You can see right here in my photo, the top of Mario's glove right here does not at all line up with the top of this glove. So even though the photos look like they're lined up, the actual artwork does not. So I'm going to have to select this one and bring it down so that the gloves actually line up properly. And then I will look at the other photo. Now if I put this on an angle, I can see a little bit better, but I'm looking now, does the nose line up the same? You know, it may not be perfect if these two photos weren't the same, so it is important to bring in photos that are drawn by the same artist and are of the same height. If not, you might have to go into Photoshop and actually ensure that these photos are truly the same height, or at least the artwork of Mario is the same height. If not, that'll run you into some problems later when you are drawing shapes, and in one photo the shoe is in the right place, but then you look at the front view and the shoe's completely, you know, at the shin or the knee, because they're just completely different proportions, different heights, and different dimensions. So I'm fairly satisfied now that I've got the glove lining up across, the knees are where I think they would be in the same, the shoes are looking like they are at the same location, his nose is the same, and so on. That's going to save us a bunch of time. So let's go ahead and save that. And then in the next step, we'll actually start going through, and we'll start with his abdomen and work our way around.